Pokemon facts are always a fun thing, especially when it's something fun and interesting that you didn't know before. That is why in today's video, I have gathered 10 really cool Pokemon facts that there is a good chance that you might not already know. So let's go ahead and check them out. Okay, so the first really cool fact of the video that you may not know is actually a bonus one, because it concerns today's sponsor, Viture, and their new Pro XR glasses. These things will have you feeling like you're in the future, because you can use them to play your Nintendo Switch on a 135-inch, 120Hz, full HD screen anytime, anywhere. Simply attach the mobile dock to your Switch and plug in your glasses, and you've got a giant, totally private screen to game on that is all yours. I've played with the glasses myself, and it's almost like you're playing your game in a movie theater all by yourself. It really ups the immersion a big degree, and it's not like it's distracting to other people either, because none of your content can be seen outside of the glasses, and the high quality sound that's built into the glasses in partnership with Harman allows you to hear your games beautifully as well, while also keeping the sound exclusive to you, so it won't disturb anyone around you while you play. The mobile dock even gives the Switch a battery life of up to 8 hours, and even allows for co-op play with another set of glasses, so you can share the experience with your friends as well. Viture have even partnered with 8-Bit Do as well on a limited edition version of their Ultimate C controller that can be used on Switch as well as with other systems for optimum gaming flexibility. And on top of all of this, you can also get 10% off on anything you pick up outside of the XR Pro glasses when you use the link in the description and code HoopsandHipHop at checkout. Again, these glasses are super cool, so be sure to check them out with the link below, and a big thank you to Viture for supporting the channel. Starting things off, there is an interesting and kind of genius thing about the Pokemon Komala that I only recently realized myself. So it's obviously based on a koala and their tendency to sleep a lot, and it is constantly holding tight to a log, almost like it's a pillow in fact, just like koalas also hold on tight to tree branches when they're sleeping. But there is also another inspiration to this Pokemon as well that is just the icing on the cake to this concept. It is likely that Komala is also holding onto a log in particular because it is inspired by the phrase, "to sleep like a log." Like, I don't know about you guys, but that just kind of blew my mind when I first figured it out, and I thought it was pretty neat, because it kind of just hides in plain sight with Komala's design, but it's kind of genius at the same time. Now let's go ahead and backtrack a bit and focus on Gen 3. In Pokemon Sapphire, Team Aqua's Pokemon, despite being a team wholeheartedly themed around water, don't use or know any water-type moves whatsoever. This is due to the fact that the only water-type Pokemon they use in Sapphire is the Sharpedo line, who didn't learn any water-type moves by level up in Gen 3, which is almost just as crazy. Another water-type Pokemon from Hoenn that Team Aqua probably could have used is Relicanth. It actually does learn some water-type moves by level up, like a normal water-type Pokemon, but another interesting thing about it that kinda hides in plain sight, similar to the thing about Komala, is that the pattern on its body is actually a treasure map, with the light brown part of its body meant to resemble land, the dark brown meant to resemble water, and the red dot on its side meant to be the X marks the spot that signifies where the treasure is. Yet another cool thing that is easily not noticed occurs in Pokemon Legends Arceus. It actually doesn't occur in the game itself, hence why it's not as easily noticed, but in the concept art of many of the game's characters, such as Komodo, Silene, Arezu, and Mai, they are all drawn in the same poses of their descendant characters from Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, which is a really cool Easter egg, even if it doesn't actually occur in the games. Backtracking once again to Generation 2, a cool thing in these games that is also not seen in the games, but is actually present in the games and just goes unused, concerns the Hall of Fame. Courtesy of Cut Content website, The Cutting Room Floor, when you enter into the Hall of Fame, the game will tell you how many times you have entered into the Hall of Fame, but it will stop keeping track after 200 times. However, the game was actually meant to display a special message once you eclipsed that 200 Hall of Fame entries instead. The message Hall of Fame Master was supposed to display after surpassing your 200th time reaching the Hall of Fame, but this message does not display in the final product due to a coding inconsistency that tells the game to stop counting Hall of Fame entries after 200, and ultimately prevents this message from being displayed. Another interesting thing from the background of Gold and Silver has to do with Lugia, and the fact that it seems like, based on certain evidence, that it was supposed to get its own signature held item just like Ho-Oh. When Ho-Oh is caught, it will be holding the Sacred Ash, while Lugia isn't so lucky itself and doesn't hold an item of its own when caught. It might have actually been the intent for this to be the case at one point though, as not only does it just make sense for Lugia to hold an item if Ho-Oh does, but there's also a bit of coding within the games that forces Pokemon to have the held item that they are set to potentially be able to hold, and this is applied to both Ho-Oh and Lugia. This is why Ho-Oh will always end up holding its item, and while this was applied to Lugia as well, it does not have an item assigned to it, which is why it ends up holding nothing instead. Although, as I mentioned, it is indeed possible that it was planned to at one point based on this evidence. Jumping ahead to Sword and Shield, two interesting gym leaders in these games are Gordie and Melonie. They are interesting not only because they are version exclusives, but also because they are mother and son, and have a bit of a strained relationship with one another. Despite this strained relationship, however, they have a unique connection with their Pokemon teams, as they each use a monotyped Pokemon of their specialty type, along with a fire type, a bug type, and a water type, making them connected in more ways than it might initially seem like on the surface. Shifting gears from the games though, now we're going to look at the TCG, and I have got something very interesting for you today because it concerns super weird looking and obscure cards. The Pokemon TCG is well known for the varying art styles of its cards, but many lesser known cards are insanely weird looking. For example, there are a bunch of cards that come from Tomoaki Imakuni, a guy who works at Creatures Inc., who produced the TCG, who you may have heard about before since he's well known for his more eccentric nature. Imakuni is not the only source of weird TCG cards, however, as there are many officially produced cards, such as these, that look especially strange. In the case of these two, they are promo cards, which naturally gives them a little more leeway to be a little more crazy, and then there's this one, which is especially unique because it was produced as a going-away gift for former Senior Vice President of Product Development at the Pokemon Company, Doug Ferguson. Many of these are also Japanese exclusive as well, for obvious reasons, which would also help to explain their lesser known and more obscure nature. Now we're going to go back to some more beta type content though, because frankly, I just can't get enough of it. In the original Capsule Monsters pitch to Nintendo that simply introduced the concept of the game itself that would eventually become Pokemon, a very early map of the Kanto region was included, again as a sort of concept of what it would be like. Being from so early on in development, it not only looks different to the final Kanto region, as you would probably expect, but it also has some key differences that don't appear in the final version either, like a full-on military base, which is possibly where Lieutenant Surge could have originated from, as well as what is thought to be a desert, which frankly Kanto could have probably used in terms of its geographic variety. It is also noted by the cutting room floor as well that this version of Kanto is actually the final Kanto turned upside down, which would also help to explain its pretty different look. And it also adds another fascinating prospect in terms of the original ideas and plans for not only Kanto, but also the original Pokemon games as a whole. Another interesting piece of art from this concept pitch involves what would become Pokemon Tower, but there's something very interesting that could be inferred about this image and what else it could have also inspired. According to the cutting room floor once again, the caption of this image says, "Grave of the Mythical Beasts." And with that caption in mind, does this whole situation bring anything to mind at all? Well, if it didn't click for you yet, this is actually the exact concept of the legendary beasts from Generation 2, almost to a T. They reside in a tower, they are known as beasts, they're obviously legendary, which is consistent with this caption as well, and the tower that they reside in is their grave, at least of their former selves until they were resurrected by Ho-Oh. While it can't be outright confirmed, it is more than reasonable to imagine that this could have potentially been the origin point for the concept of the legendary beasts, which was ultimately used in Generation 2 instead, just like tons of other cut content from Generation 1, which ultimately just helps this to line up all the better. Did you guys learn anything new in this video though? Be sure to let me know if you did and any other thoughts or facts you may have in the comments below. Also, leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe for more if you haven't already. You can also check me out on Spotify or wherever you get your music for my Pokemon remixes, and on Patreon if you'd like to support the channel further, which is extremely appreciated. With that said, I'll be back with another new video very soon, and until then, as always, thank you guys so much for watching this one. I really appreciate it, and I will smell you guys later.